When you think back of when you really started out for the first album and worked with Roy Thomas Baker in those early years, what was it like when you got time to do your first record in the studio? What was that like for you? Can you think,
It was a mess, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's like you've waited all your life to do this, and then you get shoved in between people who are recording different bits of stuff, and just because they break for a cup of tea, you get 5 minutes in the studio. It was that kind of a deal, really. I mean, you probably think it was very glamorous, but it was actually very hard because we were sort of stuck on the end of a production company who were already busy with stuff.
The Trident was it? At the
Yeah,
time?
yeah. So it was a difficult situation. I mean, not entirely bad, I have to say, because we got to work with some of the greatest technicians of that time. They had a great stable of producers and engineers. But it was tough, we didn't get priority, and it was made in bits and pieces, that first album, and you felt like screaming most of the time because you just couldn't get your fingers on it,
Yeah. I mean, in retrospect, though, when you listen to a record, you'd never get that idea when you hear Doing All Right, because it's so beautiful, like Doing All Right, going from the great changes in that song, how beautiful the pedal parts were, and then the Great King Rat. Those things were just,
Yeah, we were bursting with the ideas and just dying to get them on tape. But when you start off, people tell you that things have to be done a certain way, and it was strange. Like the drum sound on that first album is nothing like what we envisaged, really.
Yeah.
And it took us till the next album to start getting our own way. Actually,
Yeah.
we want this to be big and ambient, not to sound like a piece of tissue paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Trident drum sound at that time was famous throughout the land, and it was like, how dare you guys not want this sound?
Yeah.
Trident drum sound in those days was put the drums in a tiny little box and cover them with sticky tape and bits of foam until they go, and they go, and we went, that's not the way we like it to sound. They said, it's fine, we can put some echo on it, boys, and it'll sound great. Of course it doesn't. It sounds like what it was.
It's got the slap sound.
You just gradually work, that's just one example, you gradually work over the years to get more of your autonomy and your artistic freedom.
Queen 2, I mean, you really had that. And the album was a cool concept album. I like the way the first side was your tracks, so beautiful songs like Father to Son.
This guy knows his stuff.
Someday, One Day, thank you, which are great. Roger had the one track on the end with Loser in the end, but then, and then there was on the other side you had a lot of those tracks that Freddie had.
The Black Queen side.
Yeah, the Black Queen side with Ogre Battle and things like that. It was great. How did you guys work at that? Did you actually come around to saying, we're going to do this on this side and make this a white Queen side and this will be the Black Queen? How did that at the time? Can you remember back about that?
Yeah, it was like, we had so much stuff stored up over those years of frustration.
Yeah.
Finally you get to be in a studio and have it. By that time, we're actually booking studio time, yippee. So we can take a bit of time on stuff and create things the way we want. And my dream, among others, was to start creating those multi-track guitar things. And Freddie's working on multi-track vocals and things, and we sort of cross-pollinated a lot. For the first time, Queen 2 really represented like all the stuff that was in our brain bubbling at that time, and it was a much better representation of the way we wanted it to sound. It threw some people. I remember when the reviews came out, it's like, these guys have forgotten rock and roll, but it was just a very different format that we were trying to get into, something much more complex and sort of layered than anyone had been able to do before. Because the Beatles kind of were our Bible, but we had a lot more technology at our disposal than they had by this time.
Yeah.
And, we had their experience to start with.
Yeah.
So we were able to build on that stuff. And it was, I felt very, very, very proud of Queen 2 when we first put it out.
It still holds up as a great record. It's a lot of people still love that. They really do, Brian.
I do still feel proud of it, I have to say.
I love Sheer Heart Attack too, which is when I discovered the band at that age. I was a young teen, and I fell in love. Brighton Rock just really tore my head off, and now I'm here. And then, even the songs that were, like things that were quieter, like Lily the Valley and Dear Friends, that were.
But Def Leppard had just done a version of that. It's pretty good too. You just heard it.
Which song?
Dear Friends.
They actually did Dear Friends?
They've done like a pretty hard rock version of it. It's great. It's
really wild to see that turned around for you, right?
That's pretty cool, yeah.
And the other thing that was so great about that record is you showed all the different influences on Sheer Heart Attack. When you did things, everything from Misfire to back to Leroy Brown. I mean, it was such, a Tenement Funster, which was a very glam kind of thing that Roger wrote. That record was, to me, it's a staple of that year and just a brilliant thing. And really, you're pushing the envelope again with the sounds on that record.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that. Well, in the light of people kind of finding Queen 2 difficult, we thought, okay, let's lay it on the line. Let's just kind of disentangle all these threads, and instead of them all happening in layers, let's make them happen sequentially.
Yeah.
So the album really just bangs along from one atmosphere to another very quickly, and it's sort of easy to assimilate, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
it's
it really
like you
is.
have one focus at any point. So, you know, like Stone Cold Crazy, you know, is something that we've had for a while, but it was perfect for this because it's bang, 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 do it, get out, move on, you know, and there's a lot of colour.
So Go Crazy being a classic, still one of the greatest Queen tracks. I mean, there's many, but it was the way you worked those songs on that album. You would have short songs that come in and out and have medleys. It was cool the way you worked all.
In those days, you wanted people to put on this piece of vinyl and just sit down and listen to it from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It was meant to be a trip. You really wanted to
You
work
took people on a
people's
journey.
emotions.
You
Yeah,
did.
a journey. That's right. Yeah.
And then, you know, on the next album, which was the next one you did with Roy, was Night at the Opera, the classic, which was just such a brilliant. You did it again, from Death on Two Legs all the way to the end. You know, I mean, it was just.
That's the closest to a concept album, I suppose, ever really. I always regard A Night at the Opera and A Day at the Races as twins because we were pursuing a certain course throughout those albums. And they got incredibly complex, but also hopefully accessible because we learned a few things. You know, it was like combining Sheer Heart Attack with Queen 2 in a sense. You know, making the colours happen, but also making sure there was a focus.
Just and those records are, again, all of those are brilliant. I saw those tours. I saw Beacon Theatre in '76, and it was a life-changing show for me. I was blown away by you guys. And then saw you a year later with Thin Lizzy opening Day of the Races at the Garden. So I saw those New York shows, and they were both great. And then came back for News of the World, you know, of course.
What a life you've had, man.
I've had a great one. Thanks to you guys.
That's great.
Which has been fantastic. Fantastic. And I just want to say, I mean, at some point in the future, I'd love to even get more into the full Queen, history with you because I love talking to you.
I'm amazed how much you got perspectives on us.